This elegant duck breeds way up in the Arctic tundra and taiga, and they are the deepest diving ducks, able to dive to incredible depths. This is Clangula hymalis, the long-tailed duck. Long-tailed ducks are unmistakable, as they are quite unique. Non-breeding males are mainly white, with some black, and a long paired ribbon-like tail that it can hold pointed outwards. Non-breeding females are similar, but have brown bodies and more black on the head, and lack a long tail. Immature males have patchy plumage that looks like a mix of the two non-breeding plumages of the male and the female. When breeding season rolls around, both the male and female ditch most of the white and transition into a mix of darker browns and blacks to better blend in with the spring environment. Like other ducks, long-tailed ducks have webbed feet in the anisodactyl condition, as is the ancestral trait of all birds. Like other divers, the long-tailed duck's feet are further to the rear to increase diving efficiency, though not as far back as grebes, so they can still walk like a duck. These long-tailed ducks are sea ducks, and therefore a smaller species, similar in size to harlequin ducks. These are some of the coolest ducks, competing with some of my other favorite duck species, the harlequin duck, hooded merganser, and king eider, for the position of my favorite waterfowl species. And it's pretty easy to identify this species, as the only similarly plumaged species are still very distinct. The four species of eider are the most similar, but as you can see, it's not difficult to tell the five apart. You may also confuse them with the harlequin duck, but that's a bit of a stretch, as their plumages are incredibly distinct, as you can see here. Then there's also the northern pintail, which also has a long tail, but their plumages are still very distinct. You'll most often see these ducks during the winter months of December to March, when they inhabit coastlines and large lakes, generally as rafts of 20 to 100 individuals. During the summer months, these ducks inhabit high latitudes in North America and Eurasia, and migrate southward to coastlines and lakes during the winter, as seen on this map. Long-tailed ducks are almost exclusively carnivorous, and prey upon crustaceans including water fleas, insect larvae, crabs, and crayfish, in addition to mollusks such as bivalves and aquatic gastropods, as well as small fish, fish eggs, and various worms. They will also consume small quantities of vegetable matter, but that's not their main food. These ducks primarily forage by diving, and are probably the deepest diving waterfowl alive today. And individuals have become entangled in nets and fishing lines down to 66 meters deep in Lake Michigan. That's over 200 feet. During their high-intensity diving, long-tailed ducks commonly spend over a minute underwater and can hold their breath for up to 3 to 4 minutes. And may I remind you, these are small ducks, which makes this feat even more impressive. The highly efficient lungs present in birds, where inhaled air fills posterior air sacs and is then moved across the lungs, concurrently to blood flow, which allows for maximum gas diffusion, as the air is transferred to the interior air sacs. This makes bird lungs incredibly efficient, which is why birds are able to fly long distances without running out of breath, as a human would. These efficient lungs combine with a diving reflex that leads to bradycardia, which is a decreased heart rate in response to apnea, the temporary pause in breathing that occurs when ducks dive underwater. This is an incredible combination that makes these ducks incredibly well adapted to deep diving. Long-tailed ducks, like other waterfowl, are birds belonging to the class Aves, which is split into two major clades: the Paleognathae, which contains the ratites such as emus, ostriches, and tinamous, and the Neognathae, which contains all other extant birds. Neognathae is then split into the Galloanzerae, which contains the waterfowl and the landfowl, as well as the Neoaves, which contain the rest of the birds. Long-tailed ducks belong to the anseriforms within the Galloanzerae, along with the other ducks, geese, and swans, within which the long-tailed duck belongs to the family Anatidae, which contains most of the waterfowl we'd call ducks, along with the geese and the swans. The intergenera and intertribe relationships within this group are messy, uncertain, and under a ton of debate. So I'm going to leave that polytomy alone until more research is done in the field. The long-tailed duck belongs to my favorite tribe, or clade, of waterfowl, the sea ducks of the clade Mergini, which also contains the harlequin duck, the eiders, the scoters, the mergansers, and the goldeneyes. I'll be releasing a video on the common goldeneye soon, so make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss that one. Within Mergini, the long-tailed duck belongs to the monotypic genus Clangula, of which Clangula hymalis is the sole member. Males begin to display in an attempt to court females during late November and early December, but females don't become receptive until late January. By this time, the male has selected a single female and focuses all his courtship efforts on her. During February, the male relentlessly courts his chosen female and defends her from competitors. By late March, the female has hopefully accepted the male's advances, and mutual courtship behaviors increase as the pair bond strengthens. The male follows his mate to her selected breeding site, and no nest is prepared prior to the laying of the first egg, after which the female likely gathers plant materials from the immediate area to cover the first egg. As egg-laying progresses, she continues to construct the nest on the shoreline, eventually adding down as well. In total, she'll lay 6 to 9 whitish eggs that are slightly smaller than the average chicken egg. Only the female incubates the clutch, and leads the ducklings into the pond within a day of hatching. The ducklings are able to feed themselves, and the female will lead them to neighboring ponds when food becomes scarcer in the prior location. The pair may remain together or reunite during the winter, and pair up again come spring, though this relationship is not well studied. Long-tailed ducks are primarily preyed upon by predatory birds such as harriers, snowy owls, gerfalcons, and herring gulls, while foxes will raid nests and pike have been known to snatch up ducklings. Long-tailed ducks are globally considered vulnerable, attributed mainly to pollution of oil, mercury, and plastics. Human disturbance on the breeding grounds is a concern as well, as a flushed female leaves the nest vulnerable to predation and temperature. Hunting pressure on long-tailed ducks is low, as they are considered poor table fare, so this is not a major threat. The common name, the long-tailed duck, was adopted in the year 2000, as there was worry its prior name, the Oldsquaw, would be considered offensive to indigenous peoples that were assisting with their conservation. Birds first diverged from the other dinosaurs sometime during the Mesozoic, as the border between birds and non-avian dinosaurs is not agreed upon, with some arguing the boundary to be around Archaeopteryx during the Jurassic, while others argue the last common ancestor of Paleognathae and Neognathae to be the first bird, which would put the boundary during the Cretaceous. Galloanzerae and the anseriforms themselves were present during the late Cretaceous and survived the KT mass extinction that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs, while Anatidae is thought to have split sometime during the early Oligocene. The various duck tribes and genera are thought to have rapidly radiated during the late Miocene, with the long-tailed duck seemingly originating roughly 12 million years ago, as a fossil considered to be conspecific has been discovered in Matrezuelos, Hungary. Long-tailed duck fossils are also numerous in Pleistocene formations throughout Europe, the Yukon, Alaska, and even Florida and Utah, suggesting it previously occurred at much lower latitudes. The long-tailed duck is an incredibly interesting species. Until next time on Animal Analysis. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment on which animal we should analyze next. And maybe check out one of these other videos.